Krishna, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I want to warmly welcome all devotees today. And we want to take the opportunity to wish you a blissful and joyous Krishna Janmashtami. We want to thank the organizers, the Bhagavad Gita Academy and the Lakshminayan Temple in Kuala Lumpur for having so kindly come together. And you have put so much effort to bring so many devotees on this platform so that we could all hear and glorify Krishna. In the 12th canto, 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the very first verse, Shukadev Goswami praises Krishna very beautifully. And since today is the day that the Lord appeared, and he will appear in a few hours now, it's very appropriate for us to start today's session, the final session, by remembering this beautiful shloka that Shukadev Goswami chanted. Yam Brahma Varunendra Ruddha Marutaha Stunvanti Divyastavai Vedai Sangapada Kramopanishadai Gayantiyam Samagaha Dhyana Vashtita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yogino Yasyantam Navidu Sura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. This entire verse is a glorification of Krishna. Suta Goswami, who's remembering Shukadev Goswami, he says, unto that personality whom Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, and the Maruts, they're all praising and chanting the transcendental hymns and reciting the Vedas. Unto that personality whom all the perfected yogis within their minds are trying to fix themselves in trance. Or unto that personality on whom all devotees are absorbing themselves within him. Unto that personality whose limit can never be found by any devata nor any asura. Unto that supreme personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narotamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudiraye Nasta praeshu abhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. This is the third day of our time together remembering Krishna. And do not forget that we have all come together on the premise of one very important verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 8. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna has declared in Bhagavad Gita that to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, Krishna appears in this world millennium after millennium. And in a few hours, he will appear again and we will remember him again. And please remember, for the last 2 days, based on that wonderful pastime of Krishna chastising Kaliya and the wonderful pastime of Krishna protecting the residents of Vrindavan by lifting Govardhan Hill, he not only established the principle of religion as surrender to him, but he also established the principle of religion as continuous devotional remembrance of Krishna. Krishna not only protected the great devotees who were entirely devoted to him, but Krishna also very nicely protected even those with demonic tendencies, like Kaliya. So protection here is not just protection of the body. Protection by the Lord is actually sometimes seen in merciful manners by gently protecting the devotees, and sometimes as the rod of punishment by chastising the living entities. Krishna chastised Indra, but he reformed him. Krishna chastised Kaliya, but he purified him. But always, Krishna was looking out for his devotees and how to protect them. This is the premise on which we are going to spend time today. Today's topic is very straightforward because today we are looking at the actual appearance of the Lord. We never use the word birth on Krishna, and in a few minutes, you will come to realize why the Sastras speak about that. The other thing you may be asking is, where are we getting all this information from? All this information is not coming from the top of our heads, or we are just taking it from our pockets. No. This information on Krishna is coming from the authorized source of the Bhagavata Purana, known as Srimad Bhagavatam. I actually brought a book here so that you can all see. This is the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam from which all our transcendental knowledge is coming from. And all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, for giving us this wonderful literature. The story of Krishna's appearance is very nice. And as we go through it now, let us try and learn as much as we can, and let us extract the nectarian juice of remembering Krishna. In fact, the story begins in a very beautiful way. Once, this world, Bhagavatam tells us, was actually burdened, overburdened by the unnecessary defense force of different kings, by the demoniac mentality of lording over material nature. And because all these different personalities were harassing the living entities, because they were running after lust, anger, and greed, and no one was there to worship Krishna, Bhumi Devi, this Mother Earth, she became overburdened with all these difficulties. So she assumed the form of a cow, and with tears in her eyes, Bhagavatam tells us, she came to see Brahma. When she came to see Brahma, she reported the calamities that were happening on earth because of the demoniac mentality of the kings. Brahma, when he saw Bhumi Devi was in such difficulty, what did he do? Immediately, without wasting time, he and the Devatas and Bhumi Devi, they all went to the milk ocean known as Svetadweep, and there they started praying to the Lord in the form of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. As Brahma prayed and prayed, for a while there was nothing. He could not hear anything. But then as Brahma began chanting the names of the Lord in great earnestness and devotion, Krishna revealed his message to Brahma. As Brahma prayed and prayed to Krishna to present to Krishna the problems of this world, he also prayed that Krishna, please show us the way to come out of this. This is the mood of all the great devotees of the Lord. You've noticed from the chastisement of Kaliya, from Govardhan Puja till today, you'll find that whenever we are in difficulty, the devotees always remember the source of their shelter, the shelter of all shelters. In Bhagavatam, it is known as Paramparayanam. The shelter of all shelters is Krishna. So Brahma said there, and it is stated in Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Krishna revealed within the heart of Brahma all the knowledge that he had. And so the message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead was very clear. Krishna said to Brahma, "Oh Brahma, I know now that Bhumi Devi and all you Devatas are in difficulty. But remember, my prime duty is always to protect. My mission is to establish the protection of my devotees. And in doing so, I will annihilate all those who are opposing this wonderful mission. Please go back now and be rest assured." Why? Because very soon I am going to come as the son of Vasudev and Devaki into this world. I only ask one thing from all of you Devatas. Go back now and start appearing in this wonderful dynasty of the Yadu. In the Yadu dynasty, I will appear as the son of Vasudev. And all of you Devatas, you will also appear. You will appear to assist me in my pastimes. Go now and tell them all this information. Brahma left with his heart satisfied. Bhumi Devi left with a heart full of faith for Krishna. Now, in the land of Mathura, there was a great king known as Surasena. And Surasena was the lord of Mathura. And he was actually the lord of all the Yadu dynasty. The Yadu dynasty was also related to the Bhoja dynasty and the Andhaka dynasty and the Vrishni dynasty. So they were all related to each other. And Surasena had a son, and his son was Vasudev. Vasudev's family deity was Lord Vishnu, and he was a great devotee of the Lord. One day a marriage was fixed between Vasudev and beautiful, chaste Devaki Mata. And Devaki Mata was actually, her father was Ugrasena, and her brother was Kamsa. So actually Kamsa, which all of us know who Kamsa is, he's as famous as Krishna, but for the wrong reasons. Kamsa was actually born into a very pious dynasty. Sometimes we forget that point. He was born into a very pious dynasty, but his association, right, with other kings of other dynasties was not very good. And because those kings were very demoniac and lusted after power and were always, full of pride and full of envy and full of greed and anger, Kamsa also began to develop that tendency. That's why the first lesson we learn, it is no guarantee that one can become a devotee just because of birth. In fact, devotional service is not dependent on birth. Devotional service is dependent on association and quality of character. This is very important point. Because Kamsa began to have this association, he was actually becoming demoniac. So one day the marriage was arranged between Vasudeva and Devaki. And Bhagavatam tells us just after the marriage, Devaki and Vasudeva got on board the chariot. And traditionally, the brother, would actually ride the sister away to the house of the brother-in-law. This was practical because the sister may feel that she will miss the family. So at least one person, as was custom, would bring her all the way to the new house, and there he will drop her off. So Kamsa was very pleased. He was very happy. He was proud of this marriage. And when they got on the chariot, there was so much of music, so much of gaiety and joy. Suddenly, as Kamsa was riding the chariot as a driver of the chariot, a loud voice from the sky came. And the voice said something which changed the entire sequence of events. Kamsa heard this voice. Kamsa, you are such a fool. You are driving the chariot of your sister and brother-in-law. But foolish man, you do not know that the eighth child of this sister of yours, Devaki, will be the slayer of you. That child will slay you. Now Kamsa, when he heard that, he was completely taken aback. Here was a man who was so loving to his sister and his brother-in-law and acting like a very wonderful personality. And all of a sudden, what happened? He suddenly picked up his sword when he heard it. And what did he do? He immediately pulled the hair of Devaki, got her off the chariot. And when he heard that prophecy, he was just about to kill her with his sword. Vasudeva was very quick. He was very astonished, Bhagavatam says, at Kamsa's behavior. In order to pacify this cruel and shameless brother-in-law of his, he began to speak very quickly. He said, my dear brother-in-law, Kamsa, what is wrong with you? You are the most famous king of the Bhoja dynasty. You are the natural successor to your father and the greatest warrior and valiant king. How is it that you are prepared to kill a woman when she is defenseless, when she is your sister, at the auspicious time of this marriage? From this very day that you have taken birth, don't you know that you will die? This was a very nice point Vasudeva brought up. Vasudeva in his heart, first of all, was astonished. He was very astonished. Why was he astonished? He was astonished because Bhagavatam tells us why. He was thinking, how is it that someone who acts very, very divine at one moment can become demoniac? So Bhagavatam tells us this is the nature of one who is not God conscious. When we are not devotional in nature, we may put up a show that we are very nice and we have nice qualities. But the moment our self-interest or self-preservation is compromised, then our selfishness and true nature will come out. And Kamsa actually showed that. So Vasudeva was desperate to save the life of his wife Devaki. So first he used philosophy. He said, my dear Kamsa, please don't do this. It's not auspicious. What will people think of you? What about your reputation? And don't you know whether someone is going to kill you or whether it's ordained that someone is going to kill you, you're going to die anyway. That's a nice point. One time Srila Prabhupada was in Calcutta. And at that time, there was that war between Pakistan and India. And there was curfew and any moment bombs were going to go off. And a reporter was interviewing Prabhupada. And he said, your divine grace, you speak so much of death, birth, old age, disease. But right now, as the bombs are going, don't you fear that death is going to happen now? And Srila Prabhupada very calmly answered the reporter, whether I'm in India, or whether I'm in US or anywhere, in whatever calamity, The mortality rate of death is 100%, always. Which means when it's time to die, it's time to die. So Kamsa was told by Vasudev, don't be envious of your sister. Now, sometimes people say, how was Kamsa envious of the sister? Envy is not the envy that we think of. Scriptures tell us that envy is born out of pride. And pride is born out of lustful desire. And the greatest lustful desire we have in this world is to be separate from others and to think that we are always governed by our false ego. So Kamsa did not hesitate a moment if that was compromised. So Vasudev tried very hard. He appealed to him, but when he saw that Kamsa did not yield, he now tried to give him good advice. He now told Kamsa, Kamsa, think about it. For the present, there is no point taking the life of your sister. Why? The prophecy says her child will be your killer. She has not conceived. We just got married. It is not your sister that you want to kill. It's the child you want to kill. So let your sister go today. This was Vasudev's intelligence. He was thinking in his heart, Bhagavatam says, that Krishna has ordained that such a pronouncement must be made on this day. Nobody can kill Kamsa except Krishna. And Vasudev in his heart became overjoyed. Is Krishna going to take appearance in our lives? Is that what this means? So he had faith in Krishna. And he thought that if I can just get out of this situation, I know the Lord will take care of the matter. This is the faith a devotee has. And so he prioritized the life of Devaki. And he promised Kamsa one thing. He said, the moment a child is born, I will give you that child. If you think that the 8th child is not enough a guarantee, I will give you all the children. I will present you everyone for your necessary action. When Kamsa heard this, he knew the value of Vasudev's word of honor. Kamsa knew his words had no honor because he was demoniac. But he knew even a demon can know that when a devotee promises something, he will value it. So then Kamsa put back the sword. And then he said, all right, I will not kill my sister. But this is what I will do. When you go back, you must give me the first child that is going to come. So a year passed. And when the time came, Devaki Mata gave birth to a child. The first child was named Kirtiman. And Kirtiman was the first child to be born. But imagine the pain of Vasudev and Devaki. Vasudev was not going to go back on his word. He was a man of honor. And he immediately brought this child before Kamsa. It is said in Bhagavatam that Vasudev was very elevated and he was famous for his word of honor. And therefore, he wanted to maintain that. Even though it was very painful for Vasudev and Devaki to give the newborn child, Kamsa didn't care. Very gladly he received the child, Bhagavatam tells us. But he became a bit compassionate because again, he saw that Vasudev was keeping his word. So Kamsa exercised, his compassion. Now, this is a very important point Bhagavatam tells us. Why? For a great soul like Vasudev, nothing is considered to be painful in the cause of discharging one's duty. This is what Krishna speaks about in Bhagavad Gita. This is why Arjuna fought. He fought for Krishna's satisfaction. Vasudev saw the hand of Krishna. So Bhagavatam tells us, a learned man like Vasudev will carry out his duties for the pleasure of the Lord without hesitation. On the other hand, Bhagavatam tells us, a demon like Kamsa never hesitates in committing any abominable action, even going back on his word. And that is why it is stated so nicely in Shastras. And try to remember this. A saintly person can tolerate all kinds of miserable conditions because he sees the hand of Krishna. However, a learned man, is equally great. He can discharge his duty without awaiting favorable circumstances. But a heinous person like Kamsa can act in any sinful way. And a devotee can sacrifice anything for the personality of Godhead. So Kamsa became satisfied by Vasudev's action. He was surprised. My God, he kept his promise because Kamsa would never keep his promise. So he said, it's all right, Vasudev, keep your child. I'm not in danger from this child. Prophecy said 8th child, right? So only the 8th child is the one that you must bring to me. Why should I accept this child unnecessarily? take the child back. So Vasudeva became very happy. What a great fortune. So he took back his first child. But Bhagavatam tells us, even though he was walking away from Kamsa's palace, in his heart of hearts, he did not believe Kamsa. Because Vasudev's experience and wisdom told him that when demoniac persons who are very, very much caught up in the idea of false ego, they can never be firm in their word of honor. And one who cannot control the senses like Kamsa, he cannot be steady in his determination. This is a very important sutra. Huh? If one cannot control one's senses, Bhagavatam tells us, then one cannot be steady in one's determination. So in case we are trying to perform devotional service, but sometimes we find we are not determined enough to sustain it, the reason Bhagavatam says is because we are still having trouble in controlling our senses. This is a very important point. Just after Vasudeva left, Narada Muni came. And Narada Muni is a great devotee of the Lord. He thought that better I hasten Krishna's coming now, because the more atrocities Kamsa commits, the more ready is Krishna to come actually. So what did Narada Muni do? Narada Muni told Kamsa, Kamsa, I'm not sure what you did is right. Because do you know that all the devatas are being born in Vrindavan and Gokul? Because they want to assist the Lord to rid the earth of demonic presence. When Kamsa heard that, he became worried. He thought, oh my God, I may have made a mistake. Better I not take a chance. And this is the irrationality of demonic nature. Demons never think logically. The moment they think that their self-preservation is compromised, then logically or rationally, they will throw it out of the window. And so Kamsa then called back Vasudeva. He called back Devaki. He shackled them in a prison and he kept them there. He took Kirtiman, the first child of Devaki, and even though she prayed and begged her brother, don't take this child, it didn't matter to him. He just took the child and he killed it. And in that way, the first 6 children of Devaki Mata and Vasudeva, each time they were born, they were each killed. But even though they were killed, Bhagavatam tells us there's a higher, deeper significance to their being vanquished. These 6 sons of Devaki were in previous lives the 6 sons of a great celestial entity known as Marichi. The problem was, one time these 6 sons, after being created in this world, one time they saw Lord Brahma, the creator of this material universe. As he was creating this material universe, Brahma created the beauty of woman. And when he created a beautiful woman, even Brahma was completely mesmerized by her beauty. When the 6 sons of Marichi saw Brahma, they committed a great offense by criticizing Brahma. They became very proud and said, how can Brahmaji stand transfixed upon the attraction of a woman? And for that transgression of being offensive to a Vaishnava, they had to be purified. And so the Supreme Personality of Godhead arranged that these 6 sons should be purified in the womb of Devaki Mata, because she was a great devotee of the Lord. They should just touch this world, and by Krishna's arrangement, their lives were snuffed out very quickly so that they could go back again to the heavenly planets. So sometimes when we read Bhagavatam, we may think why Devaki Mata and Vasudeva were very peaceful. Because even though they were disturbed to see the 6 children being taken away, Bhagavatam says they were such great devotees that they tried to understand and have faith that Krishna has a plan. He has a plan. Bhishma Dev said this very nice point in the first canto, 9th chapter. I think it's the 16th or 17th verse of Bhagavatam. He spoke to Yudhishthir Maharaj and advised him very nicely. And this advice, Prabhus and Matajis, we should also keep in mind. He said, Tasmad idam daivam tantram, vyavasya bharata rishabha, tasya anuvihito anataha, nata praja prahi prabhu. It's a very important verse. Bhishma Dev told Yudhishthir Maharaj, who was very, very devastated by the great loss of lives in the Mahabharat war. Bhishma Dev told him, this entire war has been the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to annihilate all demonic tendencies. Krishna has actually settled this war. Mayai vaite nihata purva evam nimitta matra bhavya sabya sachi. So he says, when Krishna arranges something, there is nothing for us to be lamented about. So this is very important. So that is why when Kamsa took all the 6 sons, Devaki Mata and Vasudev, they were patient. Even though they were harassed, they were patient. But when Kamsa started killing all these sons, he became more and more lustful for power. He didn't stop there. What did he do? He started consolidating his kingdom. It was terrible. He imprisoned his own father, Ugrasena. Can you beat that? And then he took over as the chief of the Yadu dynasty, the Bhoja dynasty, and the Andaka dynasty. He not only occupied all these kingdoms, but he started making alliances with all the demons which were around that day. He became friends with Pralambasura, Bakasura, Chanura, Mustika, Trinavarta, Aghasura. He became very close with Jarasandha, who was another enemy of Krishna. And he was the king of the Bihar state known as Magadha. And so this way, Kamsa became unassailable. Being harassed, by Kamsa, all the kings and descendants of the Andaka, Vrishni, and Yadu dynasty, they all scattered around Mathura, Vrindavan, and Gokul. Some of them, Bhagavatam says, even went into hiding in the caves because Kamsa was just trying to harass them. So after killing the 6 sons of Devaki, one after another, in fact, many of the relatives of Kamsa came and said, please stop this atrocity. But Kamsa refused to hear. And now Devaki became pregnant with the 7th child. The 7th child was very special. By Krishna's arrangement, the 7th child was actually his plenary expansion, known as Lord Balaram, known as Lord Anantasesha. And so Lord Balaram, who is eternally the brother and the first expansion of Krishna, he came into the womb of Devaki. Why did he come first? Because in Krishna conscious philosophy, Balaram means one who is the reservoir of all spiritual strengths. Bala means spiritual strength, not just physical strength. And Rama means one who gives you bliss. So Lord Balaram occupies a very important part in devotional service. He is the one who is considered to be Adi Guru. He will prepare all the paraphernalia to receive the Lord. And so you will find that when the Lord resides in the Svetadweep ocean as Mahavishnu, or rather Garbhodakase Vishnu, he is lying on the bed of Anantasesh, the snake. So Anantasesh always prepares the facilities for the Lord to appear. And so again now Anantasesh decided, the 8th child will be my Supreme Lord. So I will appear first in the womb of Devaki. When he appeared in the womb of Devaki, already Devaki Mata was such a pure devotee. When Anantasesh appeared in her womb, whatever lamentation that she had, it all was overwhelmed by joy and lamentation. And this is very significant. When we take shelter of spiritual strength in the form of Lord Balaram and his blessing, that prepares us to receive the blessings of Krishna. Lord Balaram is the reservoir of all our spiritual masters, our gurus. And when one is a bona fide spiritual master, and when we surrender to such a spiritual master, that guide is the expansion of Balaram. So Devaki Mata became very joyful, because when she could sense in her womb that something very special has happened, Anantasesh has come into my womb, and now Lord Vishnu is going to come. But at the same time, being a mother and being in the mood of mother, she was worried. Oh, what happens now if Anantasesh is born? Then Kamsa will come and kill. What should we do? So she was very afraid like that, And at that point of time, Krishna made the following arrangements. Krishna was very compassionate, and he knew that Devaki Mata was so fearful. So now he summoned his Yoga Maya potency. Yoga Maya is the potency of the Lord. And in this material world, she is the superintendent of this material world. She is known in this material world as Durga Devi, but she is known as Yoga Maya, the potency of the Lord to rule this material world. So Krishna called Yoga Maya, ordered the appearance of Yoga Maya, and he said, you will come into the land of Vrajabhumi. And what must you do now? In Vrindavan, there resides one of the wives of Vasudev. Vasudev had many wives. Devaki was with him, but there was another wife called Rohini, and she was staying with Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata, who were good friends of Vasudev, and so they were sheltering Rohini from Kamsa. So now Krishna told Yogamaya, you go now, go to Rohini and prepare her womb, because now my dear brother Balaram, Sesha, is going to be born in Devaki Mata's womb. But the moment he is born, I want you with your Yogamaya potency to transfer him from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini, so that when he comes into this world, appears into this world, he will be seen as Rohini Nandan, when actually he's coming from the womb of Devaki. But you will do this with my full potency. And then after he is born, I shall then appear as the son of Devaki and Vasudev. And you, Yogamaya, you will appear, and you will appear as the daughter of Nanda and Yashoda in Vrindavan. And that is how Subhadra, the sister of Krishna, would come into this world. And Krishna gave a benediction to Yogamaya. Because you will appear as my sister, the whole world will worship you with all kinds of valuable presentations. They will know you in different forms as Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Kumuda, Chandika, Madhavi. And in that way, that is why today Devi is so well known throughout the world, because of the blessings that Krishna gave. And so now what happened? After this arrangement was done, Devaki's 7th pregnancy advanced. Kamsa was worried. 7th child is coming. That means 8th child is going to come. But at the opportune time, when Devaki was going to give birth, Yogamaya by her potency transferred the child. So externally, it appeared as if Devaki Mata had a miscarriage. How amazing. It appeared like it was a miscarriage. But factually speaking, over in Vrindavan Dham, Rohini Mata, she actually was giving birth. And that child that was going to be born was actually Balaram. So no one knew this wonderful exchange, because this was the exchange by the arrangement of Krishna. So Kamsa thought, all right, Devaki Mata was supposed to give birth to 7th child. The 7th child has gone through a miscarriage. It doesn't matter now. So it's very important for us to remember this. The son of Rohini and the son of Devaki, Balaram, was not put into the womb of Devaki by any form of seminal discharge. No. He came as he appeared in this world. This is a very important point. Now, at the opportune time, when everything was becoming perfect, what did Krishna do? Krishna now appeared in the mind of Vasudeva. This is very important. He appeared. He is the super soul of all super souls. Bhagavatam tells us Krishna, first of all, descended into the mind of Vasudeva. Why? Because Vasudev's mind and his intelligence, it was all fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. And as the Lord appeared in the mind, Bhagavatam tells us he appeared with all 6 opulences. These 6 opulences are very important. And no one but Krishna can claim to be the master of all 6 opulences. They are known in Bhagavatam as Sad, Aishwarya, Purna. And what are all these? The first opulence is the opulence of wealth. Krishna is all wealthy because the goddess of fortune is always with him. Second opulence, strength. Krishna is all strong. And that's why Krishna defeated all the demons and he always protected the devotees. Krishna is all famous, fame. In fact, even the demons were always cognizant of Krishna. A famous personality is defined, Bhagavatam says, by being famous amongst those who love him and even those who are envious of him. And Krishna is known throughout the entire creation. Fourth opulence, Krishna is so knowledgeable because he is the source of all knowledge. He is the source of all knowledge. The fifth opulence, no one can compare to Krishna's beauty. No one. A thief once wanted to steal Krishna's jewels, but he became so entranced by Krishna's beauty that by the time he wanted to steal the jewel, he said, Lord, you just keep it. Because the greatest beauty is not the jewel, it is your divine appearance. And the last but not least is the opulence of renunciation. Krishna may have created this world, but he's never part of it and he's never attached to it. So Krishna appeared in the mind of Vasudeva. This is the appearance of Krishna. He first appeared in the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. There was no ordinary birth, no labor pains, no epidural needed, no painkillers needed, no labor ward needed. Krishna appeared in the mind. And in the mind of Vasudeva, his consciousness was awakened to remember and be absorbed in Krishna. And Prabhus and Matajis, this is the meaning of Janmashtami. Janmashtami is the awakening of our consciousness, the awakening of our consciousness to the Lord's supreme authority. That is Janmashtami. And so now Vasudeva, with full consciousness of Krishna, what did he do? He then transferred this consciousness of Krishna into his heart, because the heart is the seat of all sincerity, isn't it? You know, we often say that when you tell someone, even in common parlance today, you say, I'm telling you something, and I'm telling you sincerely from my heart. No one will say, I'm telling you sincerely from my mind. No one says, I'm telling you sincerely from my kidneys or my liver. No, it's always heart, because heart is the seat of sincerity. So Vasudeva transferred this beautiful form of the Lord within the core of his mind, in the core of his heart. And he brought this transcendental effulgence of Krishna, which was as bright as sun, into his heart. Now, how did Vasudeva transfer this to Devaki Mata? He then transfixed his mind, moved Krishna into his heart, and he transferred Krishna. All his remembrance of Krishna was transferred to Devaki Mata. Prabhupada writes in Krishna book and in Bhagavatam. He says he initiated Devaki Mata into Krishna consciousness. So initiation simply means that we actually pass on Krishna consciousness from one person to the other. That is how Krishna appears in everyone's life, by the process of bona fide consciousness. So Devaki then bore the original consciousness of Krishna in her heart. And the moment Krishna came into her heart, Bhagavatam tells us, just like the east becomes beautiful by carrying a rising moon, Devaki Mata began to display beautiful, beautiful form. Her effulgence, her beauty became magnanimous. She looked like a moon, which had just grown. And the form of the Lord that was situated in her made her glow. She may have been in a prison, but she was so glowing and effulgent that the prison became so bright, so bright. So Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus entered the body of Devaki from the body and consciousness of Vasudeva without being subject to any conditions of an ordinary entity. And in that way, Devaki became the eternal residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Kamsa saw, because he would come to the prison, and then he heard that something is different with Devaki now. He came to the prison, and lo and behold, he saw Devaki, his sister. Devaki had always been beautiful, but now Kamsa could see that her beauty was transcendental. And even a demon like Kamsa could now know the 8th child of Devaki has been conceived. He thought it was ordinary conception. He had no idea. So in this way, Kamsa became perturbed. He was sure now that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was in his womb, was in the womb of Devaki. But he was battling. Should I kill Devaki now? But if I kill her now, without proof that it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my name, my fame, my reputation will go. People will think you're killing your sister. It's the most abominable act. I don't want to kill my reputation. Again, because of selfish interest, not because of magnanimity. Kamsa decided, I will not do this. I will wait. And so he waited. He waited. And while he waited, Bhagavatam tells us, his mind became absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He patiently waited for the delivery of the child. He was expecting that he will kill him. But he was merged in the ocean of animosity, Bhagavatam tells us. He was not favorable to Krishna. So everywhere he walked, he would see Krishna. When he looked at himself in the mirror, he saw Krishna. Bhagavatam tells us he would take 8 steps up to his throne. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 child of Devaki. Again, he would remember Krishna. But because he remembered Krishna as an enemy, it was not purifying to Kamsa. That is why when we perform devotional service, Krishna consciousness means to think favorably of Krishna. Yes, it is true that the demons are also delivered by the Lord, but they do not go back to the Lord's eternal abode of Golok Vrindavan and serve him. They just liberate themselves into a void known as the Lord's personal effulgence. There is a vast difference. Devaki, meanwhile, was very afraid of her brother. She was so afraid because nobody could now not say that Krishna was coming. So she was praying very hard to Krishna in great intensity. Vasudeva also prayed very, very hard. And thus, after worshipping very hard, she started praying. The moment she started praying, to her surprise, she saw all the devatas coming. The devatas, when they heard that Krishna had actually taken appearance in the womb and the heart of Devaki, what did they do? Every night they came to visit Devaki. They gave her courage and strength. See the power of devotional service. Devotional service means we help each other in sadhu sangha. So the devatas came, they sang kirtan, they sang beautiful prayers to Krishna, and they praised Krishna. And by praising Krishna, they gave Devaki Mata courage. That's why you are all assembled here today, Prabhus and Matajis. That's why the organizers have taken so much pains to bring you today. Because in sadhu sangha, it is much easier to be in Krishna consciousness. And so Devaki Mata became much more pacified. And so the prayers continued, and all the prayers were so beautiful until the time came when Krishna was ready to come into this world. So what did Krishna do? Bhagavatam says, at the time when Krishna was going to appear, there was no particular order of the constellation. But the moment the star Rohini heard that Krishna was coming, she immediately lined herself up with all the other constellation stars to produce the most auspicious time. So sometimes people say Krishna appeared in an auspicious time, but no. Bhagavatam tells us Krishna is the source of auspiciousness. And when Krishna appears, anything inauspicious will line up to become auspicious. And so the stars all lined up automatically to indicate auspiciousness. Bhagavatam tells us all the directions, east, west, south, north, everywhere, there was an atmosphere of peace and prosperity. There was auspicious stars visible in the sky. All the towns and villages, there were signs of good fortune. The rivers were flowing with full of beautiful, peaceful waters. The lakes were beautifully decorated with lotus flowers that were blooming. The forests were filled with the beautiful cooing of birds and peacocks. All the birds within the forest together in unison began to sing, and the peacocks began to dance for no reason. The brahmanas who were seated in their rooms and their houses and all the residents everywhere in the world, they experienced soft breezes coming through their houses. They experienced a lightness of the heart that they could not feel and understand. Their minds became full of joy because they could sense the transcendental vibrations being chanted by the devatas in the sky. The Gandharvas, the Kinnaras, the Charanas, the Siddhaloka inhabitants, they all chanted Krishna's names. And when things were all adjusted like that, Lord Vishnu, Krishna, residing within the heart of every living entity, what did he do? He appeared in the darkness of night as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He appeared. The appearance of the Lord at that time could be compared to the rising of a full moon over the eastern horizon. That's how beautiful Krishna is. Sometimes people say Krishna appeared on the 8th day of the waning moon. So how can there be a full moon? But as you have heard now, even the moon is a servant of the Lord. And when the moon saw that Krishna himself had appeared, the moon it appeared as if it was really a full moon, even though technically it was supposed to be a waning moon. What was the reaction of Vasudeva? When Vasudev saw Krishna as a beautiful child, you must understand, when Krishna appeared, he did not appear as the boy of Vrindavan that you see. No, Krishna appeared in his full four-handed form, complete with all his paraphernalia. When Vasudev saw Krishna appearing as the Supreme Lord Vishnu with four hands, holding conch, shell, club, disc, lotus flower, having the Srivatsava mark on his chest, Kaustuba gem, Vaijayanti mala, he thought to himself, who is this personality? It's amazing. Who is this? And he told himself this very important point. It must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No child can appear dressed up like this with four hands. And that is why Krishna came this way. Krishna came this way to dispel the doubts of all the atheists and all those who doubt him and think it was just a birth, because he came in a full form of Lord Vishnu. Vasudev became so full of gratitude and happiness that he said, now that the Lord has come to my life, and he has come in the form of Vishnu, who's my chosen deity, just to encourage me. I can't do anything. I'm shackled. I'm in the prison. I have nothing to offer the Lord. So in his mind, Bhagavatam says, he gave away thousands and thousands of cows in charity in his mind to all the Brahmanas. And the Lord accepted it. He accepted it. He was so kind, he accepted it. So then when that happened, Vasudev became very happy. So Vasudev was full of joy. He was full of faith. And Bhagavatam tells us the reaction of Vasudev to Krishna was all fear was dispensed from his heart. Very important point. What was the reaction of Devaki Mata? After hearing Vasudev praying to Krishna, Devaki Mata offered her prayers. But she was very frightened. Bhagavatam says, she was very meek in her heart and she was very frightened. Why was she frightened? She was frightened that her brother would come and take the Lord away. So she told Krishna, I'm very happy you have come. Just do me a favor. Your coming has become very dramatic. Now, can you undramatize the situation? If you don't mind, just appear as a normal child. And Krishna was so kind. He thought that Devaki is in the mood of a mother. She's fearful that I will die even though I'm supreme. So he obliged. From the four-handed form of the Lord, he became a beautiful baby child as we know him today in Vrindavan pastimes. And in that way, he became very small. And then he turned to Devaki Mata and he said, my dear mother and father, I have appeared before you, not because you wanted me to be, not because you wanted me to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead as your son, but I've selected you because of your great devotional service. In many, 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 many lives ago, you were Prishni and Sutapa. And in many, many, many lives after, you were Aditi and Kashyap. In the first round, I selected you because you were the most qualified devotees, and I came into this world as Prishni Garbha. Later, I came into this world as Vaman Dev. But because you desired once again to have me, I am reciprocating your love and desire and bhakti for me. And today I appear as Krishna. Do not fear, my dear mother. I will be here to protect you. And I am here to end the reign of Kamsa. But Devaki Mata still felt very fearful. And she had this terrible fear. Now, at this point, it's very important as we wind down this pastime to understand the fear of Devaki. In the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 6th verse, Prabhupada writes a very important purport to explain this. Krishna took compassion on Devaki, his devotee, because he understood her fear of Kamsa's persecution. A pure devotee is always fearful of material existence. Kamsa, Srila Prabhupada says, represents material association. Devaki Mata represents pure bhakti. Bhakti does not go well with material association. And so, the great devotees of the Lord, they are very cautious not to associate with matter and forget Krishna. Rather, they utilize matter in the service of Krishna. So Devaki Mata's fear was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of wisdom and intelligence. She was teaching us a very important point that we must learn. We must not become so puffed up and proud to think that because we are devotees, we can just mix with anyone and anything and still maintain our devotional service. We should be humble enough to know that we must always desire right? Spiritual association. That is why Devaki Mata was worried and she was fearful of having Kamsa's association. So this is the point of why Devaki Mata was exhibiting that. So now Krishna told her, because you and Vasudeva have performed so much austerity and so much devotion, now I have decided to come as your son. Yogamaya, you can now enact your pastime. And now this is what happened. The moment Krishna came into this world, what happened? Kamsa heard that the eighth child of Devaki had actually come. Now, when he heard that the eighth child of Devaki had come, what did Kamsa do? Kamsa became very, very upset. He came out disheveled and he ran to see Devaki Mata. When he ran inside, what happened? Before he knew it, he saw that there was no other person. He thought there was a child. And when he threw the child down, there was Yogamaya. How did that happen? In order for us to understand how that happened, we have to rewind a little bit just for suspense and understand what was Krishna's very special instruction. Krishna now, after appearing, hearing the prayers of Devaki, hearing the prayers of Vasudeva, he now told Vasudeva, I have instructions for you. This is what you must do now. You must take me across the river Yamuna and bring me to Yashoda Mata and Nanda Maharaj. There, Mother Yashoda has just given birth to a daughter. You will take the daughter and bring her back here, and you will leave me there. And there I will grow up, and in due time I will vanquish Kamsa, and I will relieve this earth of the terrible burden of demoniac nature. Can you do that, Vasudeva? Vasudeva thought to himself, all right, I can do that. I will do that. And so he was thinking that I am actually in shackles. How am I going to do it? But a devotee of the Lord always has faith in Krishna. So the moment he said, my Lord, I am ready to do it. What did Krishna do? Through his Yogamaya potency, Krishna made all the gods outside fall asleep. Krishna made the sky and the night very dark with heavy rain. So there was complete darkness. Krishna immediately loosened the shackles of Vasudeva and Devaki. Krishna opened the door of the prison, by his potency. Vasudeva came out, got a basket, and put little baby Krishna in. Then he put the basket on his head, and he came out of the prison. But he saw before him the vastness of Yamuna River. And he was thinking, how am I going to cross Yamuna River? But the way he was thinking, the Lord immediately reciprocated. Yamuna River was so happy to see Krishna. So she immediately parted her way so that there was clear passage for Vasudeva to walk. As Vasudeva walked, he was very careful to carry the Lord, the Supreme Lord, on his head. Can you imagine? Now, Yamuna Devi was in the waters and she was thinking, my Lord, you are crossing my waters. Will I not get a chance to actually touch your lotus feet? And so Krishna enacted a very wonderful pastime. Suddenly he slipped out of the basket and he fell into the waters of the Yamuna. And the moment he fell into the water, it petrified Vasudeva. It terrified Vasudeva. Vasudeva thought, oh my God, I've lost Krishna. But it made Yamuna Mata, the river, so happy. She could touch the Lord's lotus feet. And she said, Krishna, how wonderfully you hear the hearts of the sincere devotees. So Krishna was picked up by Vasudeva and he continued. And after he passed, the river Yamuna came back like a roaring ocean. Vasudeva walked all the way in the darkness of the night. It was very dark. The moon was covered. And he went all the way to Gokul. And there all the way he went. And when he went to Nanda Maharaj's house, everything was quiet. Again, by Krishna's potency, no one was awake. Whole Vrindavan was quiet. Everybody was asleep. And so, when everyone was asleep, he saw Yashoda Mata was also asleep. And he saw a little baby had just been born. What did he do? He took the little baby and he put the girl back into the basket and he left Krishna there. And he paid obeisances to Krishna. And silently, he returned to the prison. He put the little girl on the lap of Devaki Mata, who had fallen asleep also. And then he sat back, and the shackles came back, and the door closed, and the darkness lifted. The men woke up, and they heard the child cry, and they called now for Kamsa. Way away in Vrindavan Dham, a little child was born, right? Not born, but appeared. And this child that Devaki Mata had transferred now, or rather Yashoda Mata had, was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yashoda Mata, had fallen asleep. When she woke up, Bhagavatam says, she could not remember if the child she had given birth to was male or female. And that was also Krishna's potency. See how Krishna works this. So after Vasudeva had adjusted everything by Krishna's potency, Kamsa comes inside. The moment he came in, he thought, finally, cruel death in the form of this 8th child has been born. And so he came. The moment he came, he saw the child, and the child was a girl. Kamsa was actually thinking that, well, if someone kills me, it should be a boy. But he thought the Supreme Personality can come in any form. But Devaki Mata started pleading with him, don't kill this female child. I promise you that the child will be the wife of your son. She will never ever kill you. She will never touch you. My dear brother, you kill so many children who are just born. Don't do this. You have been advised by wrong people, taken wrong association. I beg you, do not kill this girl. Let her live as my daughter. But he was so cruel that he took the child pitilessly, and when he grabbed the newborn child to rebuke his sister, he attempted to dash the child on the stone of the floor of the prison mercilessly. Bhagavatam tells us this is a graphic example of how a cruel demon can sacrifice all relationships just for the sake of personal gratification. But just as he was going to dash the child slipped out of his hands and stood before him in the sky as Mother Durga, as Yogamaya. She appeared with 8 arms, powerful, the younger sister of Vishnu. She was decorated with so much of power. And she looked at Kamsa and she smiled. She said, you rascal and fool, do you really think you can kill me? I am the child, whom you think you can slay. Do you not understand that the child who will kill you has already been born before me somewhere within this world? Do not be so cruel to your poor sister. And she disappeared. The moment she disappeared, what happened? Kamsa became overwhelmed with terror. He became overwhelmed with fear. And now, out of pity and begging for forgiveness, he turned to Vasudeva and Devaki. And he started saying some amazing things. He said, my dear sister and brother-in-law, I've acted like a demon in killing my own nephews. But please, I have given up all considerations of intimate relationship. I beg you to please forgive me for my heinous act. But please remember, my dear sister Devaki and brother-in-law Vasudeva, all those who die are finally killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone who has to die is predestined. Therefore, we cannot blame anyone when someone dies. My dear sister Devaki, you are so gentle and kind. Please do not bear any rancor to me. Excuse me. People misunderstand that someone is the cause of someone's death, but only that supreme time is the cause of everyone's death. Tears flowed from his eyes. He looked very repentant, and he released his brother-in-law and sister. This is the nature of demonic mentality, that sometimes, demons can use sastras, and they think that by using sastras, they can get away with it. He personally unlocked the iron shackles and said, please go, please go. But what was Devaki Mata and Vasudeva's reaction? This is very important. They both forgave. They both forgave, and they both forgot whatever Kamsa had done. This is the magnanimity of a devotee. Vasudeva said, please don't feel so bad, my dear brother-in-law. What has happened has happened. We have seen the hand of Krishna, and we pray that everything will be fine with you. And so they were released. And Kamsa went back, fearful still, but wondering what to do. Next day, Kamsa turns up in the court, and all his ministers give him good sadhu sangha, so to speak. And they all talk to him about what a foolish thing he has done. And they then said that, my dear King Kamsa, That child of Devaki is somewhere in this world. Make an arrangement to kill all the children who were born within the last 10 days in all towns and counties and villages and pasturing grounds. Execute this very fast, because if not, Krishna will come and he will find you and then he will kill you. And when Kamsa heard all this bad association, his mind became colored. And what did he do? He then started persecuting all the innocent children. And his reign of terror increased and increased and increased. But Krishna had already come into this world. And it would be only a matter of time before Kamsa would be slain. Thus ends the beautiful rendition of this most wonderful appearance of Krishna. How should we end? For a minute, let us try and remember what are some of the great takeaways of Janmashtami. We now know today that Janmashtami is actually the appearance of the Lord, not his birth. It is the appearance of consciously remembering Krishna. Today is the day we will celebrate and remember the appearance of the Lord. But the appearance of Krishna is never ordinary. The Lord is factually always in our heart as Super Soul, always. He's present there. But there is a difference, Prabhus and Matajis, between presence and appearance. Someone can be present before you, but if you ignore that person, then that person is as good as not being there. But if we never ignore Krishna, then not only will he be present in our hearts, but then he will appear, just like he appeared in the hearts of Vasudeva and Devaki. Second point we can remember is Vasudeva and Devaki tolerated so much difficulties in material life, but they always did it for an opportunity to render service for Krishna. And in the end, whatever calamities that they had, Krishna gave them the consciousness and the strength to cross over. Even the 6 sons that Devaki Mata had to forego in the later part of Krishna Leela, Krishna will bring them back. So when we take up Krishna consciousness and bhakti, there is never any loss. There is never any loss. And finally, the most important thing is Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that we don't have to wait for Janmashtami to remember Krishna. Krishna appeared that day in Devaki Mata's womb and in the heart of Vasudeva. But the heart of Vasudeva passed over the consciousness of Krishna to Devaki. And Prabhupada quotes one of our acharyas, Veera Raghava Acharya, as saying the whole appearance of Krishna was a heart-to-heart transaction. That is what devotional service is. Devotional service is not word jugglery in the end. It's not philosophical turns and twists in the end. It is about tasting the fruit of bliss of Krishna consciousness. This is very important. Kamsa represents material fear, but Devaki Mata countered material fear by increasing her remembrance of Krishna. So please, let us not just remember Krishna on the day of Janmashtami, but if we take up this serious process of bhakti, Krishna will appear in our hearts every day just by chanting his names, just by remembering his glories, and just by taking sadhu sangha of all the exalted members in this assembly. I thank you very much for your association, and I pray and wish you all the best in your devotional life. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace. That was a wonderful narration, and there's so much pleasure and nourishment to be derived from today's Krishna Katha. And I read this somewhere, and I think I can relate it here, because they said that ironically, the Lord's pastimes as revealed to the world are the same. It's not like any other year the devotees are going to invent some new stories of the Supreme Lord. It's the same stories every year. And yet they fill the heart with such increasing happiness every single time we listen to it. And this is the proof that spiritual subject matters are so transcendental, because they bring so much of joy with successive reading and hearing, and it increases spiritual bliss in all our hearts, especially when we are blessed to be hearing from devotees like His Grace Devakinandan Prabhu. So thank you very much, Your Grace. We are very, very grateful to you for taking time out of your busy schedule for us today especially. And Prabhu, with your permission, we will move on to the question and answer session.
Just 1 minute, Shalini?
Sure.
You know, what you said was so deep and so amazing, because what you just said is actually found in Bhagavatam. In the 12th canto of Bhagavatam, 12th chapter, 50th verse, Shukadev Goswami says, Tad eva ramyam ruchiram navam navam, tadeva shashvan manaso maho sattvam, tadeva shokar navashoshanam rinam, yad uttama shloka yasho anugiyate. The translation is amazing. Those words describing the glories of the all-famous personality of Godhead are attractive, relishable, and ever fresh. Such words are a perpetual festival of the mind, and they dry up the ocean of misery. So what you spoke is really Bhagavatam. It's amazing. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, the question, you will take one question, Prabhu. Although Devaki and Vasudev were the real parents of Krishna, but Mother Yashoda had more pastimes with Lord Krishna, example like feeding Krishnas and etc. Why is that so?
Very straightforward answer. Srimad Bhagavatam and the Acharyas tell us, Vasudev and Devaki, they exhibited and executed devotional service very much in the mood of awe and reverence. Yashoda Mata and Nanda Maharaj executed devotional service in the mood of Vatsalya Ras, seeing Krishna as a child. So when one has that kind of mood of seeing someone as a child, the connection relationship deepens as compared to awe and reverence. If you see someone from afar, yes, you have a relationship, but it's a bit far. So Krishna was reciprocating with the devotees. Devaki Mata and Vasudeva were very happy to reciprocate on awe and reverence. So Krishna appeared to them. But after satisfying them, then Yashoda Mata and Nanda Maharaj wanted to associate with Krishna in Vatsalya Ras, and therefore he reciprocated with them. That is the reason.
Beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you so much. And we'll take one last question. Kamsa must have been very insincere, not learning from his mistakes. What was his final retribution?
Yes, I like this. Where is it? Yeah, Kamsa must have been very insincere, not learning from his mistake. The significance of Kamsa's insincerity should not be lost on us. It shows, that when we don't take up Krishna consciousness seriously, then you will find that we have this tendency to make promises and not keep them. But if we are determined to serve Krishna, then somehow or another, by Krishna's mercy, if we think favorably about Krishna, then our insincerity will be washed away. The problem with Kamsa was his determination was lacking because he was not favorable to Krishna. His final retribution, however, was exhibitive of the mercy of Krishna. Because when Kamsa was finally slayed by Krishna, Bhagavatam tells us, that he actually, received darshan of the Lord, and he actually was liberated. So Kamsa's retribution was actually the great mercy of Krishna. I hope that is useful.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for wonderfully answering all the questions. And thank you, Prabhu, once again. We are so grateful for you because you took our time out of your busy schedule for us, especially today. So, Prabhu, after this, we have a small announcement from Deepika Mataji. Mataji, whenever you're ready.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you once.
Hare Krishna.
I accept my humble obeisances to all present here. Prabhu, that again, like Sasha Mataji very nicely put it, first of all, our gratitude on behalf of the Bhagavad Gita Academy, Kuala Lumpur and Lakshmi Narayan Temple, Kuala Lumpur, for making the time out from your busy schedule. And especially today, like Mataji said, we all know that it's a busy day for everybody, and especially those who are managing temples. And yet you made the time to enlighten us and give us such beautiful katha. As always, it was very enjoyable, and we lost ourselves there for a bit in the katha that you gave. And I would also like to thank everybody present here on behalf of Bhagavad Gita Academy-KL and Lakshmi Narayan Temple for this wonderful association. I would like to thank the Singapore chapter for joining us, for giving us Prabhu and sparing us Prabhu for doing this wonderful katha. A special thanks goes out to Lakshmi Narayan Temple, which is also the birthplace of Bhagavad Gita Academy, Kuala Lumpur, for joining us in bringing such wonderful pastimes of the Lord. Like we all know that just listening to pastimes and association of devotees can purify our consciousnesses, and therefore we would like to express our gratitude on behalf of both these organizations to everybody present here. And if you would like to be associated with us and like to know more about our programs, future programs especially, do save Bhagavad Gita Academy Kuala Lumpur Temple, the association number on your phones as BGA-KL, and you will continue to hear from us. Tech team, please put up the number on the chat group so that everybody has that. We cannot end this session without expressing our gratitude to our esteemed teacher, His Grace Vishnu Chaitanya Prabhu, whose efforts have brought us to see this day today, and we are able to get association from such wonderful devotees every week, twice a week, and that is all his doing by the grace of Krishna, of course. Our gratitude also goes to the tech team who has worked tirelessly, not only to do this particular 3-day session, but also to do all the previous work, including making of posters and the videos. So we would like to express our gratitude to everybody present here. Our gratitude also goes to Dr. Srivas Prabhu, who is leading the team for this particular program. With that, we come to the end. Thank you once again, Prabhu, for your association, and wishing everyone a very happy Janmashtami. Prabhu, would you like to say a word?
No, Mataji, thank you. You have done
everything. My obeisances to you, all our obeisances to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, sir.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Truly enjoyed, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
The enjoying was all mine, Prabhu. All mine. Thank you. Thank you.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
I will call you, Prabhu.
Sure. Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhus. Prabhus, before you all leave, kindly, we're going to have the group fee session right now. So we are requesting everyone to please switch on your cameras with Devakinandan Prabhu as well, so we can all take a group picture together.
Okay.
This is very interesting. I've never seen this. Jai.
One. Okay, let's just give us a few minutes. Okay, 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. Okay.
Done, Subha Mataji?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Subha Mataji. And Prabhus and Matajis, we have reached the end of today's Janmashtami Krishna Katha session, and we would like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and spending your Janmashtami day with us, and we look forward to welcoming all of you again in the next festival. So all glories to their Lordship Shri Lakshmi Narayana, all glories to Shri Radha Madhava Astasakis, all glories to Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, all glories to Shri Gauranitai, all glories to Sampradaya Acharyas, all glories to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna Prabhus and Matajis. Good night, and see you all again.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.